I've earned 30 plus certifications, and I'm here to guide you to success on your exam. Welcome to the Ultimate AZ-900 Exam Masterclass. Are you ready to crack the AZ-900 exam in one go? You're in the right place. In this session, we'll arm you with powerful insights and hand-picked questions that can make all the difference in your exam performance. We've scanned the web using intelligent crawlers to gather the most critical and high-impact questions, all compiled into one powerful PDF resource. You can download it from the link in the description. Not only will we explore these must-practice questions, but we'll also share real exam experiences and pro tips to give you that competitive edge. Let's dive into the key questions that could shape your success. Question 1. At which OSI layer does ExpressRoute operate? A. Layer 2. B. Layer 3. C. Layer 5. D. Layer 7. Correct answer B. Layer 3. Explanation. ExpressRoute works at OSI Layer 3, enabling private IP routing between on-premises networks and Azure without using the public internet. Question 2. Note: the question is included in a number of questions that depicts the identical setup. However, every question has a distinctive result. Establish if the solution satisfies the requirements. You are tasked with deploying Azure virtual machines for your company. You need to make use of the appropriate cloud deployment solution. Solution: you should make use of Platform as a Service PaaS. Does the solution meet the goal? A. Yes. B. No. Correct answer B. No. Explanation. Virtual machines require infrastructure as a service. Platform as a Service does not provide OS level or VM level control needed for VM deployment. Question 3. You plan to deploy a website to Azure. The website will be accessed by users worldwide and will host large video files. You need to recommend which Azure feature must be used to provide the best video playback experience. What should you recommend? A. An application gateway. B. An Azure ExpressRoute circuit. C. A content delivery network (CDN). D. An Azure Traffic Manager profile. Correct answer C. A content delivery network (CDN). Explanation. Azure CDN caches video content at global edge locations, reducing latency and improving video streaming performance for worldwide users. Question 4. You have an on-premises network that contains several servers. You plan to migrate all the servers to Azure. You need to recommend a solution to ensure that some of the servers are available if a single Azure data center goes offline for an extended period. What should you include in the recommendation? A. Fault tolerance. B. Elasticity. C. Scalability. D. Low latency. Correct answer A. Fault tolerance. Explanation. Fault tolerance ensures services remain available by providing redundancy, protecting workloads when a single Azure data center experiences extended downtime. Question 5. What are two characteristics of the public cloud? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Note: each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. Dedicated hardware. B. Unsecured connections. C. Limited storage. D. Metered pricing. E. Self-service management. Correct answer D and E. Metered pricing. Self-service management. Explanation. Public cloud offers pay-as-you-go pricing and self-service resource provisioning, allowing customers to deploy and manage resources without owning hardware. Question 6. Your company hosts an accounting application named App1 that is used by all the customers of the company. App1 has low usage during the first 3 weeks of each month and very high usage during the last week of each month. Which benefit of Azure Cloud Services supports cost management for this type of usage pattern? A. High availability. B. High latency. C. Elasticity. D. Load balancing. Correct answer, C. Elasticity. Explanation. Elasticity allows resources to scale automatically based on demand, optimizing costs by increasing capacity during peaks and reducing it during low usage. Question 7. You plan to migrate a web application to Azure. The web application is accessed by external users. You need to recommend a cloud deployment solution to minimize the amount of administrative effort used to manage the web application. What should you include in the recommendation? A. Software as a Service SaaS. B. Platform as a Service PaaS. C. Infrastructure as a Service IaaS. D. Database as a Service DaaS. Correct answer B. Platform as a Service PaaS. Explanation. Platform as a Service reduces administrative effort by managing infrastructure, operating systems, and scaling, allowing focus on application development. Question 8. You have an on-premises network that contains 100 servers. You need to recommend a solution that provides additional resources to your users. The solution must minimize capital and operational expenditure costs. What should you include in the recommendation? A. A complete migration to the public cloud. B. An additional data center. C. A private cloud. D. A hybrid cloud. Correct answer D. A hybrid cloud. Explanation. Hybrid cloud combines on-premises infrastructure with Azure, providing additional capacity while minimizing costs and avoiding full cloud migration. Question 9. What can you use to automatically send an alert if an administrator stops an Azure virtual machine? A. Azure Advisor. B. Azure Service Health. C. Azure Monitor. D. Azure Network Watcher. Correct answer, C. Azure Monitor. Explanation. Azure Monitor tracks activity logs and metrics, enabling alerts when actions occur, such as administrators stopping virtual machines. Question 10. In which type of cloud model are all the hardware resources owned by a third party and shared between multiple tenants? A. Private. B. Hybrid. C. Public. Correct answer, C. Public. Explanation. In a public cloud, all infrastructure is owned and managed by the cloud provider and securely shared among multiple customers. Question 11. You have 1,000 virtual machines hosted on the Hyper-V hosts in a data center. You plan to migrate all the virtual machines to an Azure pay-as-you-go subscription. You need to identify which expenditure model to use for the planned Azure solution. Which expenditure model should you identify? A. Operational. B. Elastic. C. Capital. D. Scalable. Correct answer A. Operational. Explanation. Azure uses an operational expenditure model, allowing organizations to pay monthly based on usage instead of investing upfront capital costs. Question 12. You plan to provision infrastructure as a service, IaaS, resources in Azure. Which resource is an example of IaaS? A. An Azure web app. B. An Azure virtual machine. C. An Azure Logic app. D. An Azure SQL database. Correct answer B. An Azure virtual machine. Explanation. Azure virtual machines provide full control over the operating system and infrastructure, making them a classic infrastructure as a service offering. Question 13. To which cloud models can you deploy physical servers? A. Private cloud and hybrid cloud only. B. Private cloud only. C. Private cloud, hybrid cloud, and public cloud. D. Hybrid cloud only. Correct answer A. Private cloud and hybrid cloud only. Explanation. Physical servers exist in private and hybrid clouds. Public clouds rely on provider-owned virtualized infrastructure rather than customer physical servers. Question 14. You have 50 virtual machines hosted on-premises and 50 virtual machines hosted in Azure. The on-premises virtual machines and the Azure virtual machines connect to each other. Which type of cloud model is this? A. Hybrid. B. Private. C. Public. Correct answer A. Hybrid. Explanation. A hybrid cloud connects on-premises and Azure resources, allowing communication between locally hosted and cloud-hosted virtual machines. Question 15. Your company plans to deploy several custom applications to Azure. The applications will provide invoicing services to the customers of the company. Each application will have several prerequisite applications and services installed. You need to recommend a cloud deployment solution for all the applications. What should you recommend? A. Software as a Service SaaS. B. Platform as a Service PaaS. C. Infrastructure as a Service LaaS. Correct answer C. Infrastructure as a Service LaaS. Explanation. Infrastructure as a Service supports custom applications with complex dependencies by offering complete control over virtual machines and installed software. Question 16. Your company plans to deploy an artificial intelligence (AI) solution in Azure. What should the company use to build, test, and deploy predictive analytics solutions? A. Azure Logic Apps. B. Azure Machine Learning Designer. C. Azure Batch. D. Azure Cosmos DB. Correct answer B. Azure Machine Learning Designer. Explanation. Azure Machine Learning Designer enables building, testing, and deploying machine learning models using a visual, low-code interface. Question 17. What does a customer provide in a software as a service SaaS model? A. Application data. B. Data storage. C. Compute resources. D. Application software. Correct answer A. Application data. Explanation. In SaaS, customers manage only their application data, while the provider manages infrastructure, platform, and application software. Question 18. What is the first stage in the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure? A. Adopt the cloud. B. Make a plan. C. Ready your organization. D. Define your strategy. Correct answer D. Define your strategy. Explanation. The Cloud Adoption Framework begins by defining strategy to align cloud adoption with business goals and expected outcomes. Question 19. You have an accounting application named App1 that uses a legacy database. You plan to move App1 to the cloud. Which service model should you use? A. Platform as a Service PaaS. B. Infrastructure as a Service IaaS. C. Software as a Service SaaS. Correct answer B. Infrastructure as a Service IaaS. Explanation. Legacy databases often require OS access and customization, making infrastructure as a service the most suitable migration model. Question 20. Which cloud computing model includes on-premises and cloud-based resources? A. Hybrid. B. Public. C. Private. Correct answer A. Hybrid. Explanation. Hybrid cloud integrates on-premises infrastructure with cloud services, offering flexibility, scalability, and seamless connectivity. Question 21. Which term represents the ability to increase the computing capacity of a virtual machine by adding memory or CPUs? A. Agility. B. Vertical scaling. C. Horizontal scaling. D. Elasticity. Correct answer B. Vertical scaling. Explanation. Vertical scaling increases capacity by adding CPU or memory to an existing virtual machine rather than adding additional machines. Question 22. What are two benefits of cloud computing? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Note: each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. Enables the rapid provisioning of resources. B. Has increased administrative complexity. C. Has the same configuration options as on-premises. D. Shifts capital expenditures (CAPEX) to operating expenditures (OPEX). Correct answer A and D. Enables the rapid provisioning of resources. Shifts capital expenditures (CAPEX) to operating expenditures (OPEX). Explanation. Cloud computing enables rapid resource provisioning and converts capital expenses into operational expenses, improving agility and cost efficiency. Question 23. What is a feature of an Azure Virtual Network? A. Resource cost analysis. B. Packet inspection. C. Geo-redundancy. D. Isolation and segmentation. Correct answer D. Isolation and segmentation. Explanation. Azure Virtual Networks provide isolation and segmentation, enabling secure communication and controlled access between cloud resources. Question 24. Which cloud computing benefit provides continuous user access to a cloud-based application with minimal downtime? A. Agility. B. Scalability. C. Elasticity. D. High availability. Correct answer D. High availability. Explanation. High availability ensures applications remain accessible with minimal downtime through redundancy and failover mechanisms. Question 25. You need to identify the type of failure for which an Azure Availability Zone can be used to protect access to Azure services. What should you identify? A. A physical server failure. B. An Azure region failure. C. A storage failure. D. An Azure data center failure. Correct answer D. An Azure data center failure. Explanation. Availability zones protect workloads from data center failures by distributing resources across physically separate locations within a region. Question 26. This question requires that you evaluate the underlined text to determine if it is correct. Resource groups provide organizations with the ability to manage the compliance of Azure resources across multiple subscriptions. Instructions: review the underlined text. If it makes the statement correct, select No change is needed. If the statement is incorrect, select the answer choice that makes the statement correct. A. No change is needed. B. Management groups. C. Azure policies. D. Azure App Service plans. Correct answer B. Management groups. Explanation. Management groups manage governance and compliance across multiple subscriptions, unlike resource groups which manage resources within one subscription. Question 27. Your company plans to migrate to Azure. The company has several departments. All the Azure resources used by each department will be managed by a department administrator. What are two possible techniques to segment Azure for the departments? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Note: each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. Multiple subscriptions. B. Multiple Azure Active Directory Azure AD directories. C. Multiple regions. D. Multiple resource groups. Correct answer A and D. Multiple subscriptions. Multiple resource groups. Explanation. Subscriptions and resource groups allow departments to segment resources, apply access control, and track costs independently. Question 28. You attempt to create several managed Microsoft SQL Server instances in an Azure environment and receive a message that you must increase your Azure subscription limits. What should you do to increase the limits? A. Create a service health alert. B. Upgrade your support plan. C. Modify an Azure policy. D. Create a new support request. Correct answer D. Create a new support request. Explanation. Azure enforces service and resource quotas per subscription to prevent overuse. When limits are reached, only a new Azure support request allows Microsoft to review and increase those limits. Question 29. Which service provides serverless computing in Azure? A. Azure Virtual Machines. B. Azure Functions. C. Azure Storage Account. D. Azure Dedicated Hosts. Correct answer B. Azure Functions. Explanation. Azure Functions is a serverless computing service where code executes in response to events. No servers are managed by users, and billing is based only on execution time. Question 30. You plan to map a network drive from several computers that run Windows 10 to Azure Storage. You need to create a storage solution in Azure for the planned mapped drive. What should you create? A. An Azure SQL database. B. A virtual machine data disk. C. A file service in a storage account. D. A blob service in a storage account. Correct answer C. A file service in a storage account. Explanation. Azure Files provides SMB-based file shares, allowing Windows 10 computers to map Azure Storage as a traditional network drive, similar to on-premises file servers. Question 31. Your company plans to start using Azure and will migrate all its network resources to Azure. You need to start the planning process by exploring Azure. What should you create first? A. A subscription. B. A resource group. C. A virtual network. D. A management group. Correct answer A. A subscription. Explanation. An Azure subscription is required before creating any resources. It defines billing, access control, quotas, and service limits within Azure. Question 32. You need to be notified when Microsoft plans to perform maintenance that can affect the resources deployed to an Azure subscription. What should you use? A. Azure Monitor. B. Azure Service Health. C. Azure Advisor. D. Microsoft Trust Center. Correct answer B. Azure Service Health. Explanation. Azure Service Health notifies customers about planned maintenance, service outages, and health advisories, enabling proactive response to service-impacting events. Question 33. What can you use to identify underutilized or unused Azure virtual machines? A. Azure Advisor. B. Azure Cost Management plus Billing. C. Azure Reservations. D. Azure Policy. Correct answer A. Azure Advisor. Explanation. Azure Advisor analyzes resource usage and provides optimization recommendations, including identifying underutilized or idle virtual machines to reduce costs. Question 34. What is the most severe failure from which an Azure availability zone can be used to protect access to Azure service? A. A physical server failure. B. An Azure region failure. C. A storage failure. D. An Azure data center failure. Correct answer D. An Azure data center failure. Explanation. Availability zones protect workloads from complete data center failures by distributing resources across independent physical locations within an Azure region. Question 35. You need to purchase a third-party virtual security appliance that you will deploy to an Azure subscription. What should you use? A. Azure Subscriptions. B. Azure Security Center. C. Azure Marketplace. D. Microsoft Store. Correct answer, C. Azure Marketplace. Explanation. Azure Marketplace is the official platform for purchasing and deploying third-party virtual appliances, including firewalls and security solutions, into Azure subscriptions. Question 36. You need to purchase a third-party virtual security appliance that you will deploy to an Azure subscription. What should you use? A. Azure Subscriptions. B. Microsoft Defender for Cloud. C. Azure Marketplace. D. Microsoft Store. Correct answer, C. Azure Marketplace. Explanation. Azure Marketplace provides certified third-party software that integrates with Azure, ensuring compatibility, supportability, and simplified deployment. Question 37. You plan to deploy a service to Azure virtual machines. You need to ensure that the service will be available if a data center fails. What should you use as part of the virtual machine deployment? A. Availability sets. B. Proximity placement groups. C. Host groups. D. Availability zones. Correct answer, D. Availability zones. Explanation. Availability zones ensure services remain available during data center outages by spreading virtual machines across multiple physically separate locations. Question 38. Your company has an Azure subscription that contains resources in several regions. You need to ensure that administrators can only create resources in those regions. What should you use? A. A read-only lock. B. An Azure policy. C. A management group. D. A reservation. Correct answer, B. An Azure policy. Explanation. Azure policy enforces organizational standards, such as restricting resource creation to specific regions, ensuring compliance and governance across subscriptions. Question 39. What is the function of a site-to-site VPN? A. Provides a secure connection between a computer on a public network and the corporate network. B. Provides a dedicated private connection to Azure that does not travel over the Internet. C. Provides a connection from an on-premises VPN device to an Azure VPN gateway. Correct answer, C. Provides a connection from an on-premises VPN device to an Azure VPN gateway. Explanation. A site-to-site VPN creates a secure, encrypted tunnel between an on-premises VPN device and an Azure VPN gateway, extending the corporate network into Azure. Question 40. You need to manage containers. Which two services can you use? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Note, each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. Azure Virtual Desktop. B. Azure Virtual Machines. C. Azure Functions. D. Azure Container Instances. E. Azure Kubernetes Service AKS. Correct answer, D and E. Azure Container Instances. Azure Kubernetes Service AKS. Explanation. Azure Container Instances allow quick container execution, while Azure Kubernetes Service provides advanced container orchestration, scaling, and management capabilities. Please revise full PDF 2 to 3 times for 100% success. Check the description for the PDF download link and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for upcoming episodes. Thank you.